Now, another major issue with this concept of pride as it relates to identity is the hypocrisy surrounding which identities are deemed worthy of such pride. You know where I'm going with this. We're coming to the end of June, which is Pride Month in the Western world. Now, as this month is a celebration of identity, I did want to use it as an opportunity to talk about a few things. First, identity as a whole and how we relate to this in the modern world. Secondly, the concept of pride as a whole and again, how we relate to it in the modern world, especially as it pertains to identity. And finally, I want to talk about the sacred importance that we now place on this idea of being ourselves.
Being myself is the boldest thing I can do. My own self, my expressive self. I'm lonely, no, I keep it low, bro.
So let's start with self-expression and this idea of being ourselves in the modern world. If you've read Francis Fukuyama's book, Identity, there's a part where he talks about the transition of the outer life to the inner life. He argues that this modern conception of identity and the inner life really came about from the Protestant Reformation. Prior to this, in the medieval Catholic world, a person's identity was deeply bound to fixed social roles and the institutions of family, church, and the community. So the Reformation basically did a few things. First of all, in the religious sense, it gave each individual that direct access to God. So there was no need for the church or any other institution to act as an intermediary. So this basically created a new kind of spiritual individualism. Keyword on individualism. Then it also promoted the idea of sola scriptura, which encouraged individual interpretation of religious text. Again, keyword on individual. So the Reformation basically discovered that intrinsic human self. It gave value to it. But Fukuyama argues that this individualistic inner self has become pathological in modern time. And another thing I want to note is that during periods like the Reformation, people were urged to scrutinize their beliefs, their behaviors. There was a strong sense of self-awareness. And that's not what I see today. Genuine self-reflection and self-awareness seem to be lacking nowadays. Rather, what do we see? We see these performative, over-the-top, overly public displays of identity. It's all becoming like an act. And it's like it's no longer that inner private journey of self-discovery. Everyone has to be part of your self-discovery. Everyone has to be a part of this journey of you finding yourself and establishing your identity. For example, and I know that many people mention this, owning your sexuality is transition from a private personal matter to constant public declarations. Even something like racial pride, being proud to be Black. It sort of demands this public acknowledgement or recognition or participation of some sort, as if that pride is invalidated without that approval and attention from others. And while we're here, being proud of things like your race or your gender or your sexual orientation is actually really interesting. NBC News, for example, wrote that pride is a time to honor members of the LGBTQ community. Honor? What achievement is there that deserves honor? I don't know what was done that was so special to be worthy of such an honor. Some people might say, oh, but it's so brave, it's so courageous to be different. Not really, not anymore, not today. Everyone today is fighting to be different. People are trying to be more outrageous than the other. What might actually be brave is just being a regular person. Everyone wants a story. Everyone is fighting to be unique. Everyone wants to rebel against normalcy. Normalcy is oppression. But maybe, just maybe, what may be a truly bold move is to just embrace being normal. Being normal in a world that is obsessed with everyone trying to manufacture and force being unique. Okay, just a disclaimer. I'm not saying that if you belong to any community that you are not normal. What I mean is that there is no issue in being a regular, ordinary citizen with a standard story and a standard life. If life happens to take you down a particular path and a unique story is generated out of that, great, that's fine. But what I'm seeing is that a lot of people are looking at others on social media, in the media in general, people who have overcome this, who have come from that, and they feel this need to manufacture and concoct a story to force some kind of a personal, unique narratives on themselves. And what I'm saying is that that isn't real. Now, another major issue with this concept of pride as it relates to identity is the hypocrisy surrounding which identities are deemed worthy of such pride. You know where I'm going with this. Be proud to be Black. Be proud of your sexuality. Be proud of your gender identity. But if you're a conservative, then be very ashamed. If you're white, be ashamed. If you're straight, pipe down. If you're a man, you actually might be dangerous. And in fact, I'd rather take my chances with a bear if I'm stuck alone in a forest.
If I survive the bear attack, I won't have to see the bear at family reunions. The worst thing the bear can do is kill me. The bear sees me as a human being.
Sorry, that last one got me. The bear sees you as a human being.
No, it sees you as a snack.
What does that mean? What does that mean? I'm just curious for the people in the comments. Like, I get what these women are trying to say. Essentially, like, there are terrible things that men have done to women, and they're related. The people are supposed to be closest, a lack of humanity. Okay. The bear sees you as a... On what planet do bears see you as a human? You think they care about your needs, your aspirations, your career goals? You think they care? If they're hungry, they're just going to eat you. Is that seeing you as a human? Aren't you just a piece of meat? But like, you know how they say, oh, this man just sees me as a piece of meat. You know, he doesn't really see me as a person. The bear literally sees me as a piece of meat. But
a cis woman, a cis man, quiet down, move out of the way. Let's welcome non-binary people with open arms of acceptance. I've always said this idea of inclusivity, for it to actually be true inclusivity, it has to include everyone. It can't be a tool to form new forms of exclusion. Now, on a slightly different note, I've seen some of these modern be yourself parades, and I have some questions. We've all seen those graphic photos of people exposing themselves in these parades and so on. I don't know how much of this stuff is about finding your identity. It feels more like it's promoting the belief that embracing your true, authentic self always have to involve these public self-exposure, completely abandoning boundaries, propriety, any sense of restraint or dignity. It's almost like the ultimate freedom is putting every single intimate, private detail of yourself on display for the world to see.
I'm just tired of the over-schmectualization when it comes to pride in the community in general. Listen, I'm just as grateful as the next person that I'm allowed to love, who I'm attracted to. But as a community, we have so much more to offer than who we lay down with at night. From what they sell at the gift shops, to the performances, to the way people conduct themselves at Pride, a lot of it seems to be surrounding bedroom activities. And I just know there's more depth to us than that. Not a good look, in my opinion. How are we going to demand respect as a community and expect people to respect us when a lot of you don't even respect yourself?
A word. How are you wanting to demand all this respect and you don't even respect yourself? Look at how you're acting in the streets. Look at how you're shaking your tush. Look at how you're flailing your body parts. Look at how you're treating and promoting your life. Like, this is what you want to be respected? It's not gonna gain respect. It reminds me just like the black community and BLM, and it's like you're constantly tearing down your own community. You're constantly disrupting. This topic, y'all. You're constantly like tearing down your own community and you're constantly killing each other while screaming Black Lives Matter. Excuse me? You don't even act like your own lives matter. And that's what frustrates me about the black community. And best believe I'll be making a video on Juneteenth because that's this month as well. Black and gays. It's just too much. It's too much. It's too much, y'all.
What we're seeing, and sadly I think we're going to see more of, is this bizarre glorification of uninhibited self-indulgence. Not only has this be yourself mantra emboldened this kind of moral degeneracy that we are seeing more and more of, in many ways it also acts as this self-righteous shield against any criticism, right? How dare you judge or criticize someone who's just expressing their true self? Look, I think it's great to be yourself. It's amazing. We are so lucky in the times that we live in. But maybe, just maybe, we can be ourselves a little bit more quietly, a little bit more privately, a little bit with more dignity. Plus, there's no need to constantly scream and shout and broadcast about how proud you are of your identity, or even telling us about your identity any minute and any chance that you get. In fact, in my view, the more you feel the need to kind of scream and shout about your identity and puff yourself out and put yourself out there constantly, I don't think that's a sign of pride and confidence. It's actually a sign of insecurity. If you constantly have to tell people who you are, maybe you don't know who you are. And I see this played out constantly in modern identity politics, and this relentless posturing of one's racial, sexual, cultural identity as some kind of a badge of honor. Confident people who are at peace with themselves don't have this need to constantly advertise which boxes they check off. They don't have this insatiable need to constantly broadcast their identities. To be honest, I think a lot of people are having identity crisis. I think there's a general lack of sense of direction, general lack of meaning, lack of purpose. And that's why we are seeing these manifestations of these kinds of behaviors. It's interesting because in previous eras, yes, you had the oppressiveness of rigid societal expectations, but that kind of prescribed structure, those defined roles, it actually gave people a sense of order. It gave people a sense of, okay, I don't have to figure this out all by myself. It was limiting, yes, 100%, but it kind of provided that clear, if not narrow path for deriving purpose and meaning. In today's world, we have increasing freedoms and choices. That obligation to forge your own path, your own destiny, can paradoxically be confusing. The abundance of freedoms we enjoy now is great, but it's kind of created a new void. That weighty responsibility of self-actualization, curating your own path. Indeed, we're in the age of unfettered self-expression, yet there are people who have never felt more lost, alone, confused, and imprisoned. If you go on my social media, you will see the word Tribeless. This is because I genuinely believe that identity labels are restrictive. The very thing that we think sets us free, the establishment of an identity, can actually trap and confound us, especially when we do so publicly, when we pin labels on ourselves publicly. Then you're kind of setting a trap for yourself to maintain that identity, keep that image going. It's like you're expected, even if that expectation comes from yourself, to constantly keep up appearances with that identity wherever you go, whatever you do. For example, you've seen those videos of people who've made mental illness or personality disorders as their identity. So do you think that these people would actually want to overcome these things, especially when they capitalize on these identities socially or financially? I don't know all the answers, but I do know that this constant need to align yourself to an identity is exhausting and it's limiting. And it actually prevents a person from exploring the full, complete, nuanced, complex range of who they are. So today I have some homework for you. I want you to go away and think about and reflect on the following questions. Now there's quite a few, so feel free to pause the video, feel free to write these questions down if need be, and you can discuss your thoughts in the comments below as well. Number 1, do you believe the modern notions of being yourself have led to a decline in personal boundaries and restraint? How do we reconcile the importance of freedom of self-expression with the need for some restrictions for the greater good of society? Do you think that the loud proclamation of one's identity often indicates insecurity? Have you ever felt confined by an identity label that you or others have placed on you? How can we balance expressing our identities publicly without falling into that trap of performative self-indulgence? In today's highly digitalized world, do you think that true self-reflection and self-awareness are becoming rare? That's it from me, guys. If you like this video, subscribe. Until next time, take care.